Yeah, I think I keep saying Jordan is obviously not a Christian. Like I even said, like Jordan is obviously a heretic. Like with the things a lot of the things he says are completely wild. But I think that the way that he's talking about things, I think that the way that he's talking about these stories, first of all, it's not that new. It's only new. It's only new for kind of weird literalist type Christians in the United States and in North America, especially. But it's not weird at all for traditional Christians, because this idea that there are, first of all, different levels of meaning in the text is very traditional. This notion also that the Old Testament is there to show us certain moral structures and kind of ways of interacting that can teach us lessons about how to live our lives. I mean, that's obviously that's very traditional. I think that Jordan has found a way to talk about it using neuropsychology, using the psychology of attention, using also evolutionary biology that is definitely surprising people, because he's able to connect, research in psychology to how the stories lay themselves out. And I think that that's been really fascinating for people. And I think what I've always said is I think that the fact that Jordan is not Christian is actually extremely helpful right now,
I think
because
people would stop listening to him immediately if he ever said that he was.
yeah, exactly. It's like I it's like I say explicitly that I'm a Christian, like it's part of my upfront identity, and because of that I know that there's a limit to how many people are going to listen to what I'm saying. I've accepted that. Like it's something that I've decided to do, and I've accepted it. Like because he's acting as this weird kind of in between figure. He's not threatening to people. They don't feel like he's going to try to convert them. Like they feel like the discussion that he's having is honest and genuine, and he's actually trying to work this stuff out. And the truth is, he really is trying to work this stuff out. When he doesn't answer the question, like, do you believe in the resurrection of Christ? When he doesn't answer the question, do you believe in God? It's because he's really is trying to figure it out for himself. It's not a theater move that he's doing. Like I had a discussion with Jordan just a few weeks ago where he called me and we started talking about Genesis again, and attention and this hierarchy of attention and everything, and how God gathering the dust and blowing his spirit into the dust is the same structure as how we basically encounter the world. Like we gather in this potentiality, then we infuse meaning into it. And he was like, and then he said something, he said, it's so terrifying to think that these stories could actually be true. And I was like, what? I said, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean it's terrifying? He said, well, what do we do? What do we do if they're true, And so it's like Jordan is actually is working through this stuff. He's not pretending. And I think that's one of the reasons why some people have been so genuinely interested in what he's saying. He's no different in private than he is in public. Like, this is what's happening. I think that most of the Christians that have reacted negatively to him have been the kind of Calvinist types, the kind of the more rigid, are you saved? Are you not saved? Like that kind of Christian. I think they're the ones who have been reacting more to him. I think that most other people have just accepted that first of all, he's not a Christian. He's not saying he's a Christian. And he's just there. I always talk about him as a kind of, as a transitional figure. I always say that he's like King Cyrus. King Cyrus in the Bible, he's the one who sent the Israelites back to build their temple. Like he wasn't an Israelite. He didn't believe in God. Like he had all these idols, and he was a man of, a powerful man. But because he was able, then because of that, he was the one who was able to say, like, hey, why don't you go back, and that temple that you had, there's something interesting. There was interesting. You should do that. You should go back to your thing. And because of that, I've been witnessing to myself. Like there are thousands of people that are going back to church. Like at least hundreds of people have written me personally emails talking about how they're kind of rediscovering their Christian faith at a different level. They kind of move past the 13-year-old's version of Christianity, and they've discovered something more powerful. And I keep telling them, like, that's what Christianity is. That's always what it's been. maybe not, obviously not the evolutionary biology stuff, because they didn't talk about that stuff, but the notion that these stories manifest these ways of being and these manners of encountering the world, and that it has to do with consciousness and has to do with our experience of the world, like that, there's no mystery. Like that's really what it's about, you know. So you can easily go back to church and then discover that. Now, it doesn't mean that when you go back to church, you're only going to encounter people who understand that. Religion is a hierarchy. Like the way it's set up, it's a hierarchy. It's there. The way the stories are told, they're supposed to be able to engage and touch the dumbest peasant, right? And at the same time, engage and touch the scholar, the scholar of religion, the philosopher. Okay, but you can't expect everybody to have the same level of understanding. So if you go to a church, you're going to encounter someone who has a very direct, very literal, very kind of in-your-face vision of what those stories are about. And you shouldn't be surprised about that, because that's for everybody to fit. It's like, let's say in the Sam Harris version of religion, he would be able to enlighten everybody so that everybody understood the higher meaning of religion, and nobody was attached to the kind of more immediate lower version of believing stuff. And it's like, that's not going to happen. Some people are never going to reach that. Some people are never going to reach that level. It's impossible.